Okay, let's dive right in. We finally hit the end of the 2025 college football season. And our whole mission today is to, cut through all the noise.
Mm.
We're going to do a really rapid but detailed deep dive into the absolute climax.
Mm.
We've got all the source material, final ballots, the bracket analysis to give you the shortcut on who really defined excellence this year.
Exactly. And when you look at who's left standing, it's not just about stats anymore.
Yeah.
You're looking at cemented legacies, these awards, the paths these last two teams took. It's really the best of the best. We're trying to get to the why, not just who won, but why they earned the right to be here.
Let's start with the architects then, the leadership. I mean, the biggest story has to be Brent Key at Georgia Tech, taking home the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award.
Right.
And this isn't just about winning a few big games. This is a total program transformation that pushed the Yellow Jackets right into the playoff.
And it's the context that really matters there. You know, coaching awards can feel a little generic sometimes.
Sure, discipline and creativity, you hear that all the time.
Exactly. But the feedback on Key was so specific. The materials highlight this complete overhaul of their turnover margin. I mean, they went from being in the negative in 2024 to being a top 5 team in takeaways this year.
Wow.
That doesn't just happen. That takes culture, it takes a system, and it proves you can be consistent under pressure, which,
Yeah.
that's Georgia Tech's whole story this season.
And it really says something that a coach at a program like Georgia Tech, which can be a tough place to win, could pull that off.
In 1 year.
Right, in 1 year. He didn't just win, he built a sustainable power.
That's the point. Consistency is the rarest thing in college football because of the roster turnover. To instill that kind of discipline so fast and guide them into the elite, I mean, that's probably the coaching feat of the year.
Okay, so if Brent Key was the architect, let's talk about the players who were just dominant, especially on defense. And there's really only one name. Bray Hubbard of Alabama. He didn't just win a trophy, he swept the entire category. We're talking the Chuck Bednarik Award, the Bronco Nagurski Trophy, and the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award.
The sweep is historic. It just completely reframes how you think about a defensive back.
How so?
Well, the Thorpe Award, okay, that's for the top defensive back. You'd expect that. But for a DB to also grab the Bednarik and Nagurski Awards for the best overall defender in the country.
That never happens. Those usually go to a linebacker or a defensive end.
Right. It tells you he wasn't just a coverage guy. The word used in all the analysis was game control. He wasn't just erasing receivers, he was everywhere. Run support, forcing turnovers. He was basically a cheat code in the secondary.
And when a defensive back's name is so dominant that it pushes all those elite pass rushers and linebackers aside, you know you're seeing something special.
Well, the exception to the rule, absolutely.
The dominance did continue in the trenches, though. Romello Height from Texas Tech, he grabbed the Lombardi Award.
For the nation's top defensive lineman, yeah. Just lived in the backfield all season. Relentless pressure.
And right behind him, running the show, was Whit Weeks from LSU. He took the Dick Butkus Award.
The nation's best linebacker. And with Weeks, it wasn't just tackles. He was the field general,
Yeah.
The tone setter for that entire defense.
So you've got Hubbard's lockdown play in the secondary, Height bringing the pressure up front, and Weeks commanding the middle. It's like a blueprint for 3 different kinds of defensive excellence.
And what's interesting is that none of those teams, Alabama, Texas Tech, LSU, are in the final game.
That's a great point.
It's a testament to the fact that at the end of the day, team consistency, the kind we saw from Georgia Tech and Miami, it just matters more than having 1 or 2 individual superstars.
It's a perfect transition to the other side of the ball because those defenses were so good because the offenses they had to stop were just explosive.
Absolutely.
And leading that charge was one guy who basically redefined what an individual season could look like. Nate Frazier from Georgia.
This is where it gets truly rare. Frazier didn't just win an award. He was the 2025 offensive season. He took the Walter Camp Player of the Year, the Maxwell Award, the Doak Walker for top running back, and of course, the Heisman.
It's just so hard for a non-quarterback to rack up that much hardware. Was there even a debate? Did any QBs have a real shot, or was it Frazier all the way?
I mean, there's always a conversation with the Heisman, right? But Frazier's dominance was just too complete. The analysis kept pointing to his blend of traits. You get power backs, you get speed backs.
Right.
Frazier was all of it. Power, vision, explosiveness, all in one package. It didn't matter if the defense stacked the box. He didn't need a scheme. He was this scheme. He just carried Georgia all year long.
So Frazier owned the ground game. But going back to Georgia Tech's success, that consistency we keep mentioning, it all relied on elite quarterback play. And Haynes King delivered.
He really did.
Yeah.
He won the Davy O'Brien for top QB and the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm for the top senior.
If Brent Key is coach of the year,
Yeah.
King is the guy who executed that vision on the field.
He's the engine. You don't get praise for culture and creativity if your quarterback can't run the system, if he's making mistakes. King was so mature, his decision-making was just on another level.
And the awards kept coming. Ryan Williams from Alabama, he won the Biletnikoff for best receiver.
Yeah, the sources said his route running was just exceptional. Apparently, he was even getting separation from his own teammate, Bray Hubbard, in practice, which is just insane to think about.
And another big win for Georgia Tech. Brett Seither won the John Mackey Award for the best tight end.
And that tells you something about their system, right? Coach, QB, and now tight end. It points to an offense built on efficiency, execution, where the tight end is that crucial safety valve.
Before we get to the playoffs, we have to talk about the freshman who just exploded onto the scene. Jelani Watkins at LSU.
Oh, man. What a debut.
He won the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year Award and the Jet Award for being the nation's top returner.
That kind of immediate impact in two different phases of the game. You're looking at the start of a potentially historic career. The analysis called him one of the best kickoff return threats in recent memory.
And he wasn't just a returner.
No, he was getting snaps at receiver, at running back. Just a lightning bolt anytime he touched the football. Versatility personified.
Okay, so the foundation of all this offensive power, there was one other guy who did what Frazier and Hubbard did, just swept his category. But in the trenches, Sheridan Wilson of Texas Tech.
Wilson was just a monster up front. He took home the Outland Trophy for the top interior lineman offense or defense and the Remington Trophy for the best center.
Winning both of those. That's not just about technique. That's about overwhelming physical force.
Precisely. He was the whole reason Texas Tech had that ground and pound identity. He was the bedrock of that power offense. And even though they didn't make the final, the fact their center won both those awards tells you everything about how they were built.
Which brings us to that playoff bracket. The whole thing was dramatic, but when the dust settled, it was Georgia Tech and Miami, the two most complete teams left.
It really was a process of elimination that favored disciplined systems over individual brilliance. For Georgia Tech, their path started with a huge psychological win. They had to go through their rival Georgia in the quarterfinals.
A win like that is massive. It's not just a victory. It validates everything Brent Key has been building.
That's absolutely right. And then, right after that emotional high, they had to face a totally different test. The top seed, Texas Tech.
So a matchup of Georgia Tech's clean execution against Texas Tech's raw power.
Exactly, and execution won. Meanwhile, Miami's path to the final felt, I don't know, more like a street fight. They just battled through Texas A&M in a brutal semifinal.
That game was a total slugfest.
It was a test of will, of depth.
Right.
So while Georgia Tech had the pressure of knocking off the #1 seed, Miami went through an absolute grinder. They might be a bit more battle-tested physically coming into this final.
So two very different roads. Georgia Tech, the picture of consistency. Miami, the survivors of a physical war.
Which sets up this national championship preview perfectly. All the awards, all the different paths. What does it all mean for the title game? It's Georgia Tech versus Miami, and the single biggest factor everyone is pointing to is the location.
It's in Miami, Florida, at Hard Rock Stadium.
That's the ultimate wild card.
It feels like a huge, maybe even insurmountable advantage for Miami. Let's look at Georgia Tech first, though. They come in with the award-winning coach, the elite senior quarterback. They're balanced, controlled.
Their strength is their predictability, and I mean that in the best possible way. You know what you're getting. Mistake-free offense, tough defense. They've proven they can handle the pressure. Their whole narrative is consistency and control.
But Miami has everything you'd want to disrupt that kind of clinical approach. First, just explosive athleticism.
It's a total game changer.
Second, the confidence from surviving that slugfest with A&M. And third, that home field advantage.
You can't overstate it. It's not just a loud crowd. It's less travel, it's familiarity, it's the emotional wave you ride playing for a title in your own backyard.
So the big question is, can Georgia Tech's disciplined defense, which gave up so few big plays all year, contain Miami's athletes?
Right. And on the other side, can Miami's defensive line, fueled by that home crowd, finally rattle Haynes King and force him into the mistakes he's avoided all season?
It really is King's consistency versus the pure emotion and athleticism of Miami.
And that's the final narrative the sources give us. It's just beautiful in its simplicity. You have Georgia Tech trying to complete a perfect clinical season to prove that culture beats chaos.
Versus Miami chasing a massive statement win on the biggest stage, fueled by their home crowd and that explosive talent. A classic contrast.
It really is.
So for you, the listener, the key takeaways here are those pillars of individual dominance we saw. Nate Frazier's historic season, Bray Hubbard redefining his position, Sheridan Wilson's raw power. They own their roles this year.
But at the end of the day, only the teams built on a complete culture. Georgia Tech and Miami made it all the way to the final.
We've seen it all come together, but now we're left with this final, crucial dynamic. What happens when that consistent, award-backed execution runs into explosive athleticism with a massive home field advantage?
On a neutral field, you might even lean towards Georgia Tech based on how steady they've been.
But it's not a neutral field. And that location is a force multiplier you just can't quantify. So we're left with this one final provocative thought for you to chew on.
In a battle between that proven clinical excellence and raw home state momentum, which factor is more likely to deliver college football's ultimate prize? Which element will history remember from this clash of titans? Something to think about until kickoff.